Question 1. The performance metrics show a significant and persistent gap in the average final grades between the Faculty of Science and the Faculty of Arts at Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. Considering the university's commitment to academic excellence and equitable student development, which of the following approaches best addresses this disparity? Option A. Conduct a thorough review of curriculum design, teaching methodologies, student support services, and resource allocation within both faculties, gathering input from students and faculty to identify specific contributing factors to the grade differential. Option B. Reduce the grading scale for the Faculty of Science to align with the Faculty of Arts, thereby eliminating the perceived disparity in performance. Option C. Focus on identifying and sanctioning faculty members in the Faculty of Arts whose students consistently achieve lower grades, attributing the disparity to teaching quality alone. Option D. Implement a mandatory, university-wide tutoring program for all students in the Faculty of Arts, assuming that a lack of foundational knowledge is the primary cause of lower grades. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough review of curriculum design, teaching methodologies, student support services, and resource allocation within both faculties, gathering input from students and faculty to identify specific contributing factors to the grade differential. Explanation. The performance metrics show a significant disparity in student success rates between different academic departments at Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the university administration to address potential systemic issues affecting educational quality and equity without resorting to simplistic or punitive measures. Careful judgment is needed to identify the root causes, which could range from curriculum design and teaching methodologies to resource allocation and student support services, all while adhering to the university's internal regulations and national educational guidelines. The correct approach involves a comprehensive, data-driven investigation into the factors contributing to the performance disparities. This includes qualitative and quantitative data collection across departments, focusing on pedagogical practices, faculty development opportunities, student engagement levels, and the availability of academic support resources. The justification for this approach lies in its commitment to fairness, evidence-based decision-making, and continuous improvement, aligning with the overarching goals of higher education to provide equitable opportunities for all students. This aligns with the principles of academic governance and quality assurance expected within the Algerian higher education system, which emphasizes institutional responsibility for student outcomes. An incorrect approach would be to immediately implement standardized interventions across all departments without understanding the specific needs of each. This fails to acknowledge the unique challenges and strengths of individual academic units and could lead to ineffective or even detrimental changes. Such a broad-brush approach risks violating principles of academic autonomy and could be seen as a failure to conduct a proper needs assessment, a fundamental step in any institutional improvement initiative. Another incorrect approach would be to attribute the disparities solely to student effort or aptitude, without examining the university's role in providing a supportive learning environment. This overlooks the university's responsibility to create conditions conducive to academic success for all students, regardless of their department. Ethically, this approach is flawed as it shifts blame away from institutional factors that may be within the university's control to influence. A third incorrect approach would be to focus solely on punitive measures for underperforming departments, such as budget cuts or faculty dismissals, without offering support or identifying underlying systemic issues. This reactive and punitive stance is counterproductive to fostering a culture of improvement and can create a climate of fear, hindering open dialogue and collaboration necessary for addressing complex educational challenges. It neglects the principle of constructive intervention and support that should characterize institutional development. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly define the problem using objective data. Second, form a multidisciplinary task force to investigate potential causes. Third, gather diverse evidence, including feedback from students, faculty, and administrators. Fourth, develop targeted, evidence-based solutions tailored to the specific needs identified. And finally, implement, monitor, and evaluate the effectiveness of these solutions, making adjustments as necessary. This iterative process ensures that interventions are relevant, effective, and ethically sound. Question 2. The monitoring system demonstrates a pattern of unusual activity during the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam for a specific candidate, including prolonged periods of inactivity followed by rapid bursts of correct answers, suggesting potential external assistance. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action for the examination invigilator? Adhering strictly to the university's internal examination regulations and Algerian higher education guidelines. Option A. Discreetly observe the candidate for further suspicious behavior without immediate intervention, documenting all observations for a later report. Option B. Immediately disqualify the candidate based on the system's alert and report the incident to the examination board. Option C. Ignore the alert as it might be a technical glitch, and focus on other candidates to avoid causing undue stress. Option D. Approach the candidate directly during the exam to question them about the observed activity, potentially disrupting the examination environment. The correct answer is B. Immediately disqualify the candidate based on the system's alert and report the incident to the examination board. Explanation. The monitoring system demonstrates a potential breach of academic integrity, presenting a significant professional challenge for the university's examination board. The challenge lies in balancing the need to uphold the integrity of the entrance examination, as mandated by the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat's internal regulations and Algerian higher education law, with the requirement to ensure fairness and due process for all candidates. A hasty or biased decision could lead to wrongful accusations, damage the university's reputation, and undermine the credibility of the entrance process. Careful judgment is required to investigate thoroughly and apply the established disciplinary procedures consistently. The correct approach involves a systematic and evidence-based investigation. This means meticulously reviewing the data flagged by the monitoring system, cross-referencing it with other available information, and then initiating a formal inquiry process as outlined in the university's examination regulations. This process typically includes notifying the candidate of the alleged infraction, providing them with an opportunity to respond, and presenting their case before a disciplinary committee. This approach aligns with the principles of natural justice and the specific procedural requirements for handling academic misconduct stipulated by the university and generally by Algerian educational authorities, ensuring that any sanctions are proportionate and justified by clear evidence. An incorrect approach that involves immediate disqualification without a proper investigation fails to adhere to the university's established disciplinary procedures. This bypasses the candidate's right to a fair hearing, a fundamental principle enshrined in academic regulations and broader legal frameworks governing educational institutions in Algeria. Such an action would be procedurally unfair and could be challenged, potentially leading to legal repercussions for the university. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the flagged anomaly due to time constraints or a desire to avoid conflict, represents a dereliction of duty. This undermines the integrity of the examination process and sends a message that academic misconduct will not be taken seriously. It violates the university's responsibility to maintain a fair and equitable assessment environment for all students, as required by its own regulations and the overarching mandate of the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research in Algeria to ensure quality and integrity in higher education admissions. A third incorrect approach, which is to rely solely on the automated flagging system without human oversight or contextual analysis, is also professionally unsound. While technology is a valuable tool, it can generate false positives. A responsible approach requires human judgment to interpret the data, consider mitigating factors, and ensure that decisions are not made in a vacuum. This aligns with the professional ethical obligation to act with diligence and to ensure that decisions are based on a comprehensive understanding of the situation, not just raw data. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Acknowledge and document the flagged anomaly. 2. Initiate a preliminary review of the evidence. 3. Follow established university procedures for investigating academic misconduct, ensuring due process for the candidate. 4. Gather all relevant evidence and allow the candidate to present their defense. 5. Convene a disciplinary committee or relevant body to review the case and make a decision based on the evidence and university regulations. 6. Communicate the decision clearly and provide avenues for appeal if applicable. This systematic approach ensures fairness, transparency, and adherence to regulatory requirements. Question 3. The performance metrics show a significant and persistent gap in student graduation rates between the Faculty of Sciences and the Faculty of Humanities at Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. Considering the university's commitment to academic excellence and equitable student support, which of the following actions would be the most appropriate and ethically sound response for the university administration? Option A. Immediately raise the minimum entry requirements for the Faculty of Sciences to ensure only students with a higher probability of success are admitted, thereby improving the overall graduation statistics for that faculty. Option B. Initiate a comprehensive review of the curriculum, teaching methodologies, and student support services within the Faculty of Sciences to identify and address specific challenges contributing to lower graduation rates, while simultaneously exploring best practices from the Faculty of Humanities for potential adaptation. Option C. Reallocate a portion of the Faculty of Humanities budget to the Faculty of Sciences, assuming that increased financial resources will automatically resolve the performance disparity without further investigation. Option D. Implement a mandatory, standardized tutoring program for all students in the Faculty of Sciences, regardless of their individual academic needs or the specific reasons for potential difficulties. The correct answer is B. Initiate a comprehensive review of the curriculum, teaching methodologies, and student support services within the Faculty of Sciences to identify and address specific challenges contributing to lower graduation rates, while simultaneously exploring best practices from the Faculty of Humanities for potential adaptation. Explanation. The performance metrics show a significant disparity in student success rates between different academic departments at Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an administrator to address systemic issues affecting educational equity and quality, without resorting to simplistic or potentially discriminatory solutions. The challenge lies in identifying the root causes of these disparities, which could stem from curriculum design, teaching methodologies, resource allocation, or external socioeconomic factors, and implementing interventions that are both effective and ethically sound, adhering strictly to Algerian higher education regulations and university internal policies. The correct approach involves a comprehensive, data-driven investigation into the factors contributing to the performance gaps. This includes qualitative and quantitative analysis of departmental resources, faculty development programs, student support services, and curriculum relevance. The justification for this approach lies in its commitment to fairness and evidence-based decision-making, aligning with the principles of academic integrity and the university's mission to provide equitable educational opportunities. Algerian higher education law emphasizes the importance of quality assurance and equal access to education, requiring institutions to proactively identify and address barriers to student success. This approach respects the autonomy of departments while ensuring accountability for overall institutional performance and student outcomes. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on increasing admission standards for departments with lower performance metrics is ethically flawed and potentially discriminatory. This fails to address the underlying issues within those departments and unfairly penalizes prospective students. It violates the principle of providing support and resources to struggling areas, which is a core responsibility of university administration. Such an approach would likely contravene Algerian regulations concerning equal opportunity in higher education and could lead to a decline in diversity and inclusivity. Another incorrect approach, which involves reallocating resources away from departments with lower performance to those with higher performance without a thorough needs assessment, is also professionally unsound. This reactive measure ignores the possibility that lower performance might be a symptom of under-resourcing, not inherent deficiency. It could exacerbate existing inequalities and undermine the development of programs that may be crucial for specific fields of study or regional needs, potentially violating university policies on balanced resource distribution and strategic development. A third incorrect approach, which involves implementing standardized, one-size-fits-all remedial programs across all departments without considering departmental specificities, is inefficient and ineffective. While well-intentioned, it fails to acknowledge that the reasons for performance disparities can vary significantly. This approach overlooks the need for tailored interventions and may not address the unique challenges faced by each department, thus failing to achieve meaningful improvement and potentially wasting valuable resources. contrary to the principles of efficient resource management mandated by university governance. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. First, clearly define the problem using objective data. Second, conduct a thorough root cause analysis involving stakeholders from affected departments. Third, develop a range of potential solutions, evaluating each against regulatory compliance, ethical considerations, and potential impact. Fourth, consult relevant university policies and Algerian higher education guidelines. Fifth, implement the chosen solution with clear objectives and monitoring mechanisms. And finally, evaluate the effectiveness of the intervention and make necessary adjustments. Question 4. Stakeholder feedback indicates a growing need for external funding to enhance the infrastructure and resources supporting the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance examination. Several companies, including those offering specialized tutoring services for entrance exams and educational technology providers, have expressed interest in sponsoring aspects of the examination process. How should the university administration proceed to secure these sponsorships while upholding the integrity and fairness of the entrance examination? Option A. Directly negotiate sponsorship agreements with companies that offer services directly relevant to exam preparation, leveraging their interest to secure significant funding for examination resources. Option B. Accept sponsorship offers from any interested company without extensive review, provided the funds are earmarked for general university development rather than specific examination components. Option C. Establish an independent sponsorship review committee, composed of faculty members from diverse departments and external academic integrity experts, to vet all sponsorship proposals and ensure they do not compromise the examination's fairness or content. Option D. Delegate the responsibility of sponsorship negotiation to the marketing department, allowing them to secure funding based on the best financial terms available, with minimal oversight from academic committees. The correct answer is C. Establish an independent sponsorship review committee, composed of faculty members from diverse departments and external academic integrity experts, to vet all sponsorship proposals and ensure they do not compromise the examination's fairness or content. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate need for funding and the ethical obligation to ensure the integrity of the entrance examination process. The pressure to secure financial contributions from potential sponsors, who may have vested interests in the outcome of the admissions, requires careful navigation to uphold fairness and transparency. The university administration must balance its financial objectives with its duty to provide an equitable opportunity for all aspiring students. The correct approach involves establishing a clear, independent oversight committee responsible for reviewing and approving all sponsorship agreements related to the entrance examination. This committee should comprise individuals with no direct financial stake in the sponsorship deals and should operate under strict guidelines that prioritize the examination's integrity above all else. This aligns with the principles of academic integrity and fairness, which are fundamental to any educational institution's reputation and its commitment to merit-based admissions. Such a process ensures that sponsorship does not influence examination content, administration, or evaluation, thereby safeguarding the fairness of the selection process for all candidates. An incorrect approach would be to directly negotiate sponsorship deals with companies that have a clear interest in influencing the admissions process, such as those offering preparatory courses or services to prospective students. This creates an unacceptable conflict of interest and undermines the credibility of the entrance examination. It violates the ethical principle of impartiality and could lead to accusations of favorability, damaging the university's standing and potentially leading to legal challenges. Another incorrect approach would be to accept sponsorship without any form of independent review or disclosure. This lack of transparency and oversight opens the door to potential manipulation and bias. It fails to demonstrate due diligence in protecting the integrity of the examination and could be perceived as a deliberate attempt to conceal undue influence, leading to a severe breach of ethical conduct and regulatory noncompliance. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a thorough risk assessment of any potential sponsorship, focusing on its impact on the fairness and integrity of the examination. This includes identifying potential conflicts of interest, ensuring transparency in all dealings, and establishing robust internal controls. When faced with pressure to compromise ethical standards for financial gain, professionals must prioritize adherence to regulatory frameworks and ethical codes of conduct, seeking guidance from relevant university policies, and, if necessary, legal counsel. Question 5. The performance metrics show a significant number of candidates scoring just below the previously established cutoff score for a particular program in the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam. The admissions committee is considering how to address this situation to ensure fairness and adherence to university policy. Option A. Reevaluate the performance metrics for any potential data entry or processing errors, and if none are found, proceed with admission decisions based strictly on the established cutoff score as per university regulations. Option B. Exclude all candidates who scored below the established cutoff, regardless of the number of such candidates, to maintain the integrity of the original admission criteria. Option C. Manually adjust the scores of candidates who are slightly below the cutoff to bring them above the threshold, based on a subjective assessment of their potential. Option D. Lower the cutoff score for all candidates to accommodate the observed performance trend, thereby increasing the number of admitted students. The correct answer is A. Reevaluate the performance metrics for any potential data entry or processing errors, and if none are found, proceed with admission decisions based strictly on the established cutoff score as per university regulations. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's academic mission with the need for efficient resource allocation and adherence to established admission policies. The admissions committee must make decisions that are fair, transparent, and compliant with the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat's regulatory framework for entrance exams. The core difficulty lies in interpreting the performance metrics in a way that aligns with these principles, especially when faced with borderline cases or potential anomalies. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the performance metrics against the established admission criteria and guidelines set forth by the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. This means verifying that the metrics accurately reflect the candidate's performance in relation to the specific requirements of the entrance exam and the university's academic standards. Any deviations or unusual patterns in the metrics must be investigated to ensure they are not due to errors in data collection, processing, or interpretation, and that the final decisions are consistent with the spirit and letter of the university's admission regulations. This approach upholds fairness and academic integrity by ensuring that admission decisions are based on objective, verifiable performance data that aligns with the university's stated policies. An incorrect approach that relies solely on a superficial interpretation of the performance metrics without deeper scrutiny risks overlooking critical details or potential errors. For instance, automatically disqualifying candidates based on a single metric that appears slightly below a threshold without considering the overall profile or investigating potential data anomalies would be a failure to apply due diligence. This could lead to the exclusion of deserving candidates and undermine the fairness of the admission process, potentially violating the university's commitment to equitable evaluation. Another incorrect approach would be to arbitrarily adjust admission thresholds or criteria based on the observed performance metrics without proper authorization or a clear policy basis. This circumvents the established regulatory framework and introduces subjectivity, which can lead to accusations of bias and compromise the credibility of the admission process. Such an action would directly contravene the university's governance and admission policies, which are designed to ensure a standardized and impartial selection procedure. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a systematic review of the performance metrics, cross-referencing them with the official admission criteria and any relevant university regulations. If anomalies or ambiguities are detected, the committee should consult the relevant university departments or policy documents for clarification. The ultimate goal is to make informed, defensible decisions that are both academically sound and procedurally fair, adhering strictly to the established regulatory framework of the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. Question 6. The audit findings indicate that several admission files for the current academic year at Amar Telidji University of Laghouat show discrepancies between the documented qualifications of candidates and the stated admission criteria, raising concerns about the integrity of the selection process. Which of the following represents the most appropriate immediate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Initiate a comprehensive review of all admission files from the past 3 academic years to identify any recurring patterns of noncompliance and to assess the overall robustness of the admission procedures. Option B. Convene an emergency meeting of the admissions committee to discuss the findings, request clarification from the auditors, and begin a targeted investigation into the specific files flagged by the audit, cross-referencing them with university admission regulations and relevant Algerian ministerial decrees. Option C. Immediately halt all further admission processes for the current year and reevaluate all submitted applications from scratch to ensure absolute adherence to all stipulated criteria. Option D. Issue a public statement acknowledging the audit findings and assuring prospective students that the university is committed to a fair and transparent admission process, while deferring any specific actions until a later date. The correct answer is A. Initiate a comprehensive review of all admission files from the past 3 academic years to identify any recurring patterns of noncompliance and to assess the overall robustness of the admission procedures. Explanation. The audit findings indicate a potential breach of academic integrity and adherence to university regulations concerning the admission process at Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need to uphold the university's standards and fairness with the potential for human error or misinterpretation of established procedures. The admissions committee members are entrusted with ensuring that all candidates are evaluated according to the defined criteria and that the process is transparent and equitable. Failure to address such findings rigorously could undermine the credibility of the university and lead to unfair advantages or disadvantages for applicants. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective, and documented investigation into the specific audit findings. This means meticulously reviewing the admission files identified by the audit, cross-referencing them with the university's official admission criteria and procedures as outlined in the relevant internal regulations and decrees governing university admissions in Algeria. The investigation should aim to determine the extent of any deviation from established protocols, identify the root cause of any discrepancies, and gather evidence to support conclusions. This approach is correct because it directly addresses the audit's concerns by adhering to the principles of due diligence, transparency, and accountability mandated by the university's governing framework and Algerian higher education law. It ensures that any corrective actions taken are based on factual evidence and are consistent with the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair admission practices. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the audit findings without proper investigation, perhaps due to time constraints or a desire to avoid scrutiny. This would be a failure to comply with the university's internal oversight mechanisms and potentially with Algerian administrative law that requires proper handling of official findings. Another incorrect approach would be to implement immediate punitive measures without a thorough investigation. This lacks due process and could unfairly penalize individuals or departments based on preliminary findings, violating principles of fairness and natural justice, which are implicitly expected within any regulated academic institution. A third incorrect approach would be to selectively address only the most obvious discrepancies, while ignoring more subtle but potentially significant procedural irregularities. This would be a superficial response that fails to address the systemic issues that may have contributed to the findings, thus not fully rectifying the situation and leaving the university vulnerable to future breaches. Professionals in such situations must employ a systematic decision-making process. This involves 1. Acknowledging and formally documenting the audit findings. 2. Initiating a fact-finding investigation that is impartial and thorough, adhering strictly to the university's established policies and Algerian legal frameworks for higher education. 3. Analyzing the evidence gathered to determine the nature and scope of any noncompliance. 4. Developing and implementing appropriate corrective and preventive actions based on the investigation's conclusions, ensuring these actions are proportionate and aligned with regulatory requirements. 5. Documenting all steps taken and maintaining records for future reference and accountability. Question 7. The efficiency study reveals that the current process for verifying applicant academic transcripts at Amar Telidji University of Laghouat is time-consuming and prone to errors, potentially delaying admissions. Which of the following strategies best aligns with the regulatory framework for Algerian higher education admissions and promotes efficient, yet rigorous verification. Option A. Reducing the number of required verification checks for all applicants to expedite the process, assuming most applicants are honest about their qualifications. Option B. Allowing applicants to submit unofficial transcripts and relying on their self-attestation of authenticity for initial admission decisions, with official verification to be completed post-enrollment. Option C. Implementing a digital system for transcript submission and verification, with automated cross-referencing against a national database of accredited institutions and qualifications, coupled with a clear protocol for manual review of any discrepancies. Option D. Outsourcing the entire transcript verification process to a third-party agency without establishing clear oversight mechanisms or ensuring their adherence to Algerian academic standards. The correct answer is C. Implementing a digital system for transcript submission and verification, with automated cross-referencing against a national database of accredited institutions and qualifications, coupled with a clear protocol for manual review of any discrepancies. Explanation: the efficiency study reveals a potential bottleneck in the admissions process at Amar Telidji University of Laghouat, specifically concerning the verification of applicant documentation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for timely admissions with the imperative to uphold the integrity of the academic institution and comply with Algerian higher education regulations. A hasty or incomplete verification process could lead to admitting unqualified candidates, undermining the university's reputation, and potentially violating established admission criteria. Conversely, an overly bureaucratic or inefficient process could deter qualified applicants or delay their enrollment, impacting student intake targets. Careful judgment is required to implement improvements that are both effective and compliant. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the current documentation verification workflow, identifying specific points of delay or error, and proposing targeted procedural enhancements. This might include digitizing certain documents, standardizing verification checklists, or implementing a tiered review system based on document complexity. This approach is professionally sound as it directly addresses the identified inefficiency while remaining within the established regulatory framework for university admissions in Algeria. It prioritizes accuracy and fairness, ensuring that all applicants are evaluated consistently and in accordance with the university's admission policies, which are themselves governed by national higher education directives. This method respects the principle of due diligence in academic admissions. An incorrect approach would be to bypass or significantly alter the standard verification procedures without proper authorization or a thorough understanding of their regulatory basis. For instance, accepting documents on faith without adequate cross-referencing or relying solely on self-declarations for critical information would be a significant regulatory failure. This undermines the principle of academic integrity and could lead to the admission of individuals who do not meet the stipulated academic or personal requirements, violating Algerian higher education laws that mandate rigorous admission standards. Another incorrect approach would be to introduce new, unapproved verification methods that lack a clear procedural basis or fail to provide an auditable trail, thereby compromising transparency and accountability, which are fundamental to administrative processes in public institutions. Professionals tasked with optimizing university processes should adopt a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the existing regulatory landscape and institutional policies. This involves consulting relevant Algerian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research guidelines, university statutes, and internal admission regulations. The next step is to diagnose the root causes of inefficiency, not just the symptoms. Solutions should then be developed collaboratively, involving stakeholders such as admissions officers, faculty, and IT support, ensuring that proposed changes are practical, sustainable, and compliant. Pilot testing of any new procedures is advisable before full implementation, followed by continuous monitoring and evaluation to ensure ongoing effectiveness and adherence to regulations. Question 8. Governance review demonstrates that the current application process for the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance examination is lengthy and prone to delays. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the university's regulatory framework for optimizing this process? Option A. Implementing a phased reduction in the number of required supporting documents, ensuring all essential regulatory information is still collected and verified. Option B, significantly shortening the review period for each application to meet aggressive internal targets, even if it means less thorough vetting. Option C, introducing a fully automated decision-making system for all applications to expedite processing, regardless of individual case complexities. Option D, developing and implementing a new proprietary online assessment tool that replaces the current examination format entirely. The correct answer is A, implementing a phased reduction in the number of required supporting documents, ensuring all essential regulatory information is still collected and verified. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the need to balance institutional efficiency with adherence to the specific admission regulations of Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. The challenge lies in identifying and implementing process improvements without inadvertently creating barriers to entry or violating the spirit and letter of the university's entrance examination framework. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any optimization efforts are aligned with the stated objectives of the examination and the university's commitment to fair and equitable access for all eligible candidates. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admission process to identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies, followed by the development and implementation of targeted improvements that streamline operations while strictly adhering to the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat's admission regulations. This approach is professionally sound because it prioritizes compliance with the established legal and regulatory framework governing the entrance examination. By focusing on optimizing within these boundaries, it ensures that the university's admission procedures remain fair, transparent, and legally defensible, upholding the integrity of the examination process as mandated by the university's governing bodies. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that focuses solely on reducing the number of application stages without considering the regulatory requirements for information gathering and verification would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to incomplete applications, potential eligibility issues, and a failure to meet the specific documentation mandates set by the university, thereby violating the regulatory framework. An approach that prioritizes speed of processing over the thoroughness of candidate assessment, potentially by automating decisions without human oversight for complex cases, would also be problematic. This risks overlooking critical qualitative aspects or specific criteria outlined in the university's admission guidelines, leading to potentially unfair or non-compliant admission decisions. An approach that introduces new, unapproved assessment methods or criteria, not explicitly sanctioned by the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat's entrance examination regulations, would be a direct violation. This bypasses the established governance and approval processes for examination content and methodology, undermining the regulatory authority. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such situations should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the governing regulations. This involves consulting the official documentation for the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat's entrance examination. The next step is to identify specific areas for improvement within the existing process. Any proposed changes must then be rigorously assessed against the regulatory requirements to ensure full compliance. If a proposed change appears to conflict with or circumvent any regulation, it should be discarded or modified until it aligns. Collaboration with relevant university departments and legal counsel, if necessary, can help ensure that optimizations are both effective and compliant. Question 9. The evaluation methodology shows that the current candidate selection process for the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam is time-consuming. To address this, which of the following strategies would best optimize the process while maintaining fairness and adherence to university admission standards? Option A. Significantly reducing the number of evaluation stages to expedite the final selection, even if it means less in-depth assessment of each candidate. Option B. Prioritizing candidates based on their perceived potential for future success without a clear, objective framework, leading to a faster selection. Option C. Introducing a new, subjective scoring system for interviews that is not clearly defined or communicated to candidates beforehand. Option D. Implementing a phased approach to review applications, focusing on digitizing initial screening and standardizing subsequent evaluation stages based on predefined academic and aptitude criteria. The correct answer is D. implementing a phased approach to review applications, focusing on digitizing initial screening and standardizing subsequent evaluation stages based on predefined academic and aptitude criteria. Explanation: the evaluation methodology shows a need to optimize the process of candidate selection for the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing efficiency with fairness and adherence to the university's established admission criteria and regulatory framework. The goal is to improve the speed and effectiveness of the selection process without compromising the integrity of the exam or introducing bias. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing selection stages, identifying bottlenecks, and implementing targeted improvements. This might include digitizing application processing, standardizing interview protocols, or leveraging technology for preliminary screening, all while ensuring that these changes align with the university's stated admission policies and any relevant Algerian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research guidelines. The justification lies in promoting a more efficient and equitable selection process that upholds the principles of meritocracy and transparency, as expected by regulatory bodies overseeing higher education admissions. An incorrect approach would be to arbitrarily shorten the evaluation timeline without a thorough analysis of its impact on the quality of assessment. This could lead to overlooking qualified candidates or inadvertently favoring certain profiles due to rushed decision-making, violating the principle of fair evaluation. Another incorrect approach would be to introduce new, unvalidated selection criteria that are not aligned with the university's academic objectives or are not transparently communicated to candidates. This risks introducing bias and contravening the spirit of fair competition mandated by educational regulations. A third incorrect approach would be to solely focus on cost reduction by cutting essential evaluation steps, potentially compromising the thoroughness of candidate assessment and the overall validity of the selection process, which is a breach of professional responsibility in academic admissions. Professionals tasked with optimizing such processes should adopt a data-driven and ethically grounded decision-making framework. This involves understanding the current process, identifying specific areas for improvement, proposing solutions that are compliant with all relevant regulations, including those from the Algerian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, and piloting changes to assess their effectiveness before full implementation. Transparency, fairness, and adherence to established academic standards must be paramount throughout the optimization process. Question 10. The evaluation methodology shows that the current admission process for Amar Telidji University of Laghouat is experiencing significant delays, impacting the timely enrollment of new students. Which of the following strategies best addresses this issue while strictly adhering to Algerian higher education admission regulations and ethical principles of fairness and meritocracy? Option A. Introducing a series of informal interviews with candidates after the written examination to gauge their fit for the university, with interview scores contributing to the final admission decision. Option B. Implementing a new digital platform for online application submission and automated initial screening of basic eligibility criteria, followed by a standardized, timed examination for all candidates, with results processed by a dedicated administrative team. Option C. Reducing the duration of the written examination sections to expedite grading and announcement of results without altering the examination content or scoring rubrics. Option D. Prioritizing candidates based on their high school performance data alone for direct admission, bypassing the entrance examination entirely for a significant portion of applicants. Correct answer is B. Implementing a new digital platform for online application submission and automated initial screening of basic eligibility criteria, followed by a standardized, timed examination for all candidates, with results processed by a dedicated administrative team. Explanation: the evaluation methodology shows a need to optimize the process for admitting students to Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing efficiency with fairness and adherence to established university admission regulations. The university's reputation and the integrity of its entrance examination process are at stake. A flawed optimization could lead to unfair admissions, legal challenges, or a decline in the quality of incoming students. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the current admission process, identifying bottlenecks and areas for improvement, and proposing changes that are aligned with the university's regulatory framework for admissions. This includes ensuring that any proposed changes do not compromise the validity or reliability of the entrance examination, nor do they introduce bias or discrimination. The regulatory framework for university admissions in Algeria, as overseen by the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, emphasizes meritocracy, transparency, and equal opportunity. Therefore, any optimization must uphold these principles, ensuring that the selection criteria remain objective and that the process is accessible to all eligible candidates. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without considering the impact on fairness would be professionally unacceptable. For instance, reducing the time allocated for certain examination sections without a thorough study of its effect on candidate performance could disadvantage students who require more time to process information, violating the principle of equal opportunity. Another incorrect approach might involve automating parts of the evaluation process in a way that bypasses human oversight or fails to account for nuanced responses, potentially leading to misinterpretations of candidate abilities and contravening the need for a robust and fair assessment. Furthermore, implementing changes without consulting relevant university committees or obtaining necessary approvals from the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research would be a direct violation of administrative and regulatory protocols. Professionals tasked with process optimization in this context should adopt a structured decision-making process. This involves 1. Clearly defining the objectives of the optimization, e.g., improving efficiency, reducing costs, enhancing fairness. 2. Thoroughly understanding the existing process and its regulatory constraints. 3. Identifying potential solutions and evaluating their impact on all stakeholders, particularly candidates. 4. Consulting with relevant authorities and stakeholders to ensure compliance and buy-in. And 5. Implementing changes in a phased manner with continuous monitoring and evaluation. This systematic approach ensures that optimization efforts are both effective and ethically sound, upholding the integrity of the university's admission process. Question 11. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of impersonation and a high impact on the integrity of the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam if it occurs. Considering the regulatory framework for university entrance examinations in Algeria, which of the following is the most appropriate response to mitigate this identified risk? Option A. Increase the number of invigilators in each examination hall by 50% without specific training on identifying impersonation. Option B. Implement a multi-stage identity verification process for candidates, including biometric checks at the examination venue and requiring official identification that matches registration details precisely. Option C. Announce a strict policy against impersonation with severe penalties, without altering current examination procedures. Option D. Rely solely on the existing identification checks at the entrance to the examination center, assuming the risk is manageable. The correct answer is B. Implement a multi-stage identity verification process for candidates, including biometric checks at the examination venue and requiring official identification that matches registration details precisely. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the practicalities of managing a high-stakes entrance examination. The pressure to ensure a fair and secure process, while also being efficient, can lead to difficult decisions. The risk matrix, by highlighting potential vulnerabilities, necessitates a proactive and ethically sound response that prioritizes the integrity of the examination over expediency. The correct approach involves a systematic review and enhancement of existing security protocols, informed by the identified risks. This aligns with the fundamental ethical obligation of examination bodies to maintain fairness and prevent malpractice. Specifically, within the Algerian regulatory framework governing higher education entrance examinations, such as those overseen by the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, the emphasis is on ensuring equal opportunity and the validity of assessment. Implementing additional proctoring staff and utilizing technology for real-time monitoring directly addresses the identified risks of cheating and impersonation, thereby upholding the principles of transparency and meritocracy mandated by national educational policies. This approach demonstrates a commitment to due diligence and the safeguarding of the examination's credibility. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the identified risks as minor or to implement superficial changes that do not adequately address the vulnerabilities. For instance, simply increasing the number of invigilators without providing them with specific training on detecting sophisticated cheating methods, or without leveraging technology for enhanced surveillance would be insufficient. Failure to implement robust countermeasures could be seen as a breach of the ethical duty to ensure a fair examination, potentially leading to challenges to the exam's validity and undermining public trust in the university's admissions process. Another incorrect approach would be to overreact by introducing overly restrictive measures that significantly impede the examination process for legitimate candidates, such as excessive personal item restrictions that cause undue stress and distraction, without a clear and proportionate link to the identified risks. This could be viewed as an unfair impediment to candidates and contrary to the spirit of providing a fair assessment opportunity. Professionals should approach such situations by first thoroughly understanding the identified risks and their potential impact. This involves consulting the risk matrix and any supporting documentation. Next, they should brainstorm potential mitigation strategies, considering their effectiveness, feasibility, and ethical implications. The decision-making process should then involve evaluating these strategies against the university's regulatory obligations and ethical commitments, prioritizing measures that offer the most robust protection of examination integrity while minimizing disruption to candidates. Consultation with relevant stakeholders, such as examination committees and security personnel, is also crucial to ensure a comprehensive and well-informed decision. Question 12. Upon reviewing the examination hall during the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam, a proctor observes a candidate discreetly using a mobile phone. What is the most appropriate and procedurally sound action to take? Option A. Immediately confiscate the phone and dismiss the candidate from the examination hall without further consultation. Option B. Ignore the observation to avoid potential disruption to other candidates and to prevent any personal involvement in a disciplinary matter. Option C. Document the observation and report it immediately to the chief invigilator or designated examination supervisor for their intervention and further action according to university regulations. Option D. Discreetly inform the candidate to cease the activity and continue monitoring them closely for any further infractions. The correct answer is A. Immediately confiscate the phone and dismiss the candidate from the examination hall without further consultation. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge related to academic integrity and the proper application of university regulations during the entrance examination process at Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. The core issue is ensuring fairness and adherence to established examination protocols while addressing a potential breach. The university's regulatory framework, as it pertains to entrance exams, mandates strict adherence to examination rules to maintain the validity and credibility of the assessment. The correct approach involves a systematic and transparent process of reporting the observed irregularity to the designated examination authorities. This aligns with the university's commitment to upholding academic standards and ensuring a level playing field for all candidates. By escalating the matter through the proper channels, the university can investigate the incident objectively and apply its established disciplinary procedures, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the entrance examination. This process respects the rights of all candidates and upholds the principles of fairness and due process. An incorrect approach that involves direct intervention or personal judgment outside of established procedures is problematic. This could lead to accusations of bias, procedural unfairness, or overreach, potentially undermining the credibility of the examination process itself. Ignoring the observation is also an incorrect approach, as it tacitly condones potential academic misconduct and fails to uphold the university's responsibility to maintain a fair and rigorous examination environment. Furthermore, discussing the observation with other candidates or external parties before official channels are involved constitutes a breach of confidentiality and could prejudice any subsequent investigation. Professionals in this situation should follow a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established institutional policies and procedures. This involves 1. Observing and documenting the irregularity factually. 2. Identifying the appropriate authority or body within the university responsible for handling such matters. 3. Reporting the observation through the designated channels, providing clear and objective information. 4. Cooperating fully with any subsequent investigation. This structured approach ensures that actions are taken within the bounds of university regulations and ethical conduct, promoting fairness and maintaining the integrity of the academic process. Question 13. The evaluation methodology shows that the current student admission process at Amar Telidji University of Laghouat is experiencing significant delays, impacting the timely commencement of academic programs. To address this, which of the following strategies best aligns with the principles of fairness, transparency, and adherence to Algerian higher education regulations for optimizing the admission process? Option A. Streamlining the review process by reducing the number of faculty members involved in application assessment to speed up decision-making, allowing for faster communication of acceptance or rejection. Option B. Implementing a phased admission system where applicants are processed based on the date of application submission, with priority given to earlier submissions to expedite overall throughput. Option C. Developing a standardized, objective scoring rubric for evaluating academic transcripts and standardized test results, coupled with a digital application tracking system for applicants, ensuring all criteria are applied uniformly and transparently. Option D. Introducing a quota system for admissions based on geographical origin within the Laghouat province to ensure wider representation, even if it means deviating from strict academic merit order for some applicants. The correct answer is B. Implementing a phased admission system where applicants are processed based on the date of application submission, with priority given to earlier submissions to expedite overall throughput. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a need to optimize the process for admitting students to Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. The scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing efficiency with fairness and adherence to established university admission regulations. The university must ensure that the selection process is transparent, equitable, and upholds the academic standards set by the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research in Algeria. Any deviation from these principles could lead to legal challenges, reputational damage, and a compromised student body. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the current admission procedures, identifying bottlenecks and areas for improvement, and proposing changes that align with Algerian higher education law and university statutes. This includes ensuring that all criteria are objective, clearly communicated, and applied consistently to all applicants. The regulatory framework for university admissions in Algeria emphasizes meritocracy and equal opportunity, as stipulated by relevant ministerial decrees and university internal regulations. Optimizing the process means enhancing its effectiveness and efficiency without compromising these fundamental principles. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on speed without considering fairness would be professionally unacceptable. For instance, prioritizing the processing of applications based on the order they are received, without a standardized evaluation of academic merit, violates the principle of equal opportunity and merit-based selection mandated by Algerian law. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes subjective criteria over objective ones, such as relying heavily on personal interviews without a structured scoring system, introduces bias and undermines the transparency required by university admission regulations. Furthermore, an approach that bypasses established approval channels or fails to document changes adequately would contravene administrative and legal requirements for institutional processes. Professionals tasked with process optimization in this context should adopt a structured decision-making framework. This involves 1. Understanding the current process and its objectives. 2. Identifying specific pain points and areas for improvement. 3. Researching and understanding the relevant Algerian legal and regulatory framework governing university admissions. 4. Developing potential solutions that are compliant, efficient, and equitable. 5. Evaluating these solutions against established criteria, including regulatory compliance, fairness, and impact on student experience. 6. Implementing the chosen solution with clear communication and documentation, followed by monitoring and evaluation. Question 14. Strategic planning requires the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat administration to optimize the process for its entrance examinations. Considering the regulatory framework established by the Algerian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, which of the following approaches best balances efficiency gains with the imperative to maintain academic integrity and fairness for all candidates? Option A. Significantly reducing the number of invigilators per examination hall to cut down on personnel costs, and expediting the distribution of question papers by allowing earlier access to secure storage facilities for a limited number of administrative staff. Option B. Consolidating multiple examination centers into fewer, larger venues to reduce logistical overhead, even if it means longer travel distances for some candidates and a potential strain on supervision resources in the larger halls. Option C. Implementing a streamlined digital system for candidate registration and result processing, alongside a revised invigilation schedule that ensures adequate supervision ratios based on hall capacity and exam complexity, while maintaining strict protocols for question paper handling and security. Option D. Introducing a new, untested online proctoring system for all examination centers without prior pilot testing or comprehensive training for invigilators and candidates, prioritizing immediate cost savings and perceived technological advancement. The correct answer is C. Implementing a streamlined digital system for candidate registration and result processing, alongside a revised invigilation schedule that ensures adequate supervision ratios based on hall capacity and exam complexity, while maintaining strict protocols for question paper handling and security. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge for the university administration in balancing the need for efficient resource allocation with the imperative to uphold academic integrity and fairness during the entrance examination process. The core tension lies in optimizing the examination logistics without compromising the validity and equity of the assessment, which are foundational principles for any educational institution, especially one conducting competitive entrance exams. Adherence to the specific regulatory framework governing university entrance examinations in Algeria, as established by the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, is paramount. This framework dictates procedures for exam administration, question setting, invigilation, and result processing to ensure transparency and prevent irregularities. The correct approach involves a systematic review and refinement of existing examination processes, focusing on areas that can be improved for efficiency without introducing bias or compromising security. This includes leveraging technology for administrative tasks like registration and result tabulation, optimizing the allocation of examination centers and invigilators based on student numbers and geographical distribution, and streamlining the question paper distribution and collection protocols. Such an approach aligns with the Algerian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research's directives on maintaining the highest standards of academic integrity and ensuring a fair selection process for all candidates. The emphasis is on enhancing operational effectiveness while strictly adhering to established guidelines that safeguard the examination's credibility. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed and cost reduction over fairness and security. For instance, reducing the number of invigilators per hall without a corresponding increase in supervision quality could lead to increased opportunities for cheating, violating the principle of equitable assessment. Similarly, rushing the question paper printing and distribution process without adequate checks could compromise the security of the exam materials, a direct contravention of regulatory requirements for exam integrity. Another flawed approach would be to implement new technological solutions without thorough testing and proper training for staff and students, potentially leading to systemic errors or disenfranchisement of candidates, which undermines the fairness mandated by the regulatory framework. Professionals tasked with optimizing university entrance examinations should adopt a decision-making process that begins with a thorough understanding of the relevant Algerian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research regulations. This understanding should then inform a risk assessment of current processes, identifying potential vulnerabilities and areas for improvement. Solutions should be evaluated not only for their efficiency gains, but also for their impact on fairness, security, and compliance with all applicable laws and guidelines. A phased implementation with pilot testing and continuous monitoring is advisable to ensure that optimizations achieve their intended goals without unintended negative consequences. Question 15. Examination of the data shows a candidate presenting for the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam has a photograph on their admission ticket that bears a slight but noticeable resemblance to the individual, yet the name on the ticket does not precisely match the name on their official national identification document, the invigilator is faced with a decision on how to proceed. Option A. The invigilator should immediately deny the candidate entry to the examination hall based on the name mismatch. Option B. The invigilator should accept the candidate's verbal assurance that they are the correct individual and allow them to proceed with the examination. Option C. The invigilator should permit the candidate to take the examination and promise to resolve the identification issue after the exam has concluded. Option D. The invigilator should consult the university's official examination regulations for the procedure on handling identification discrepancies, attempt to verify the candidate's identity through alternative official university records if available, and document all steps taken. The correct answer is D. The invigilator should consult the university's official examination regulations for the procedure on handling identification discrepancies, attempt to verify the candidate's identity through alternative official university records if available, and document all steps taken. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in academic settings, ensuring the integrity of the entrance examination process while managing the practicalities of candidate identification. The Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam, like any reputable institution, is bound by regulations that prioritize fairness, transparency, and the prevention of academic misconduct. The core challenge lies in balancing the need for robust identity verification with the potential for administrative errors or oversights that could unfairly disadvantage a candidate. Strict adherence to established protocols is paramount to uphold the credibility of the examination and the university. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented process for handling discrepancies in candidate identification. This approach prioritizes verification through official university channels and established procedures, ensuring that any decision made is based on verifiable information and aligns with the university's examination regulations. This method upholds the principle of due process for the candidate and maintains the integrity of the examination by preventing unauthorized access or impersonation. It reflects a commitment to fairness and adherence to the established regulatory framework governing university admissions and examinations. An incorrect approach that relies solely on the candidate's verbal assurance without further verification fails to adhere to the university's established identification protocols. This bypasses necessary checks and could potentially allow an unqualified or unauthorized individual to sit for the exam, thereby compromising its integrity and fairness. Such an action would be a direct violation of examination regulations designed to prevent fraud and ensure a level playing field for all legitimate candidates. Another incorrect approach, which involves allowing the candidate to proceed without any form of identification and promising to resolve it later, is equally problematic. This creates a significant risk of impersonation and undermines the entire purpose of identity verification. It demonstrates a lack of diligence and a disregard for the established rules, potentially leading to serious consequences for the examination's validity and the university's reputation. A further incorrect approach, which involves immediately disqualifying the candidate without exploring any avenues for verification or resolution, can be overly punitive and may violate principles of fairness and natural justice if the discrepancy is minor and resolvable. While strictness is necessary, a complete lack of flexibility or a failure to follow a defined process for resolving such issues can lead to an unfair outcome for the candidate. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's examination regulations regarding candidate identification. When a discrepancy arises, the professional should first consult these regulations to determine the prescribed procedure. This typically involves seeking secondary forms of identification, contacting the admissions office for verification, or escalating the issue to a designated examination supervisor. The decision should always be documented, and the candidate should be informed of the process and the outcome. The ultimate goal is to uphold the integrity of the examination while ensuring fair treatment of all candidates. Question 16. Assessment of the most effective strategy for a prospective student to ensure their application for the upcoming academic year at Amar Telidji University of Laghouat meets all stipulated admission requirements and maximizes their chances of a successful enrollment, considering the university's specific regulatory framework for entrance exams. Option A, relying on advice from friends who have previously applied to the university and using general knowledge about university entrance exams without consulting official university documentation. Option B, assuming that the admission process is similar to other universities and preparing for the exam based on generic study materials without verifying the specific syllabus or requirements of Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. Option C, submitting the application as soon as possible without a thorough review of all required documents, assuming that minor omissions can be rectified later. Option D, diligently consulting the official Amar Telidji University of Laghouat admission prospectus and any supplementary guidelines published for the current academic year, and meticulously adhering to all outlined procedures and deadlines. The correct answer is D, diligently consulting the official Amar Telidji University of Laghouat admission prospectus and any supplementary guidelines published for the current academic year, and meticulously adhering to all outlined procedures and deadlines. Explanation: the scenario presents a challenge for prospective students applying to Amar Telidji University of Laghouat, requiring them to navigate the university's admission process efficiently. The core professional challenge lies in understanding and applying the university's specific admission regulations and guidelines to ensure a successful application. This requires careful attention to detail, adherence to procedural requirements, and proactive engagement with the information provided by the university. Misinterpreting or ignoring these guidelines can lead to disqualification, highlighting the importance of a systematic and informed approach. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat's official admission prospectus and any supplementary guidelines published by the university for the current academic year. This document will detail all necessary steps, required documentation, deadlines, and eligibility criteria. By meticulously following these instructions, applicants demonstrate their understanding of and respect for the university's established procedures, which is a fundamental ethical and regulatory expectation in any formal application process. This proactive and compliant method ensures that the application is complete and meets all stated requirements, thereby maximizing the chances of a fair assessment. An incorrect approach that involves relying solely on informal advice from peers or outdated information from previous years' admission cycles is professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for the official regulatory framework governing admissions. Universities, like Amar Telidji University of Laghouat, update their admission criteria and procedures regularly. Relying on informal or outdated information can lead to submitting incomplete applications, missing crucial deadlines, or failing to meet specific eligibility requirements, all of which are direct violations of the university's admission regulations. Another incorrect approach is to assume that all university entrance exams are standardized and to apply a generic preparation strategy without consulting the specific syllabus or guidelines provided by Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. This ignores the unique requirements of the institution and can lead to a lack of focus on the actual content and format of the exam, thus failing to meet the university's assessment objectives. Professionals in this context, aspiring students, should adopt a decision-making process that prioritizes accuracy and compliance. This involves 1. Identifying the authoritative source of information, official university publications. 2. Thoroughly understanding all stated requirements and deadlines. 3. Creating a checklist or timeline to ensure all steps are completed correctly and on time. 4. Seeking clarification from official university channels if any aspect of the guidelines is unclear. 5. Submitting the application with ample time to spare for any potential corrections. This systematic approach minimizes risk and demonstrates a commitment to following established protocols. Question 17. Which approach would be most appropriate for a candidate preparing for the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam when faced with the temptation to gain an unfair advantage? Option A. Attempting to obtain or share leaked examination questions to guarantee a high score. Option B. Focusing solely on memorizing past exam papers without understanding the underlying concepts, hoping to replicate answers. Option C. Actively seeking out and utilizing officially recognized preparatory materials and engaging in ethical study groups to ensure thorough and fair preparation. Option D. Relying heavily on unofficial study guides that promise access to actual exam content, even if their authenticity is questionable. Correct answer is C. Actively seeking out and utilizing officially recognized preparatory materials and engaging in ethical study groups to ensure thorough and fair preparation. Explanation. The scenario presents a common ethical dilemma faced by students preparing for a university entrance exam. The challenge lies in balancing the desire for academic success with the imperative to uphold academic integrity. Students are often under immense pressure to perform well, which can lead them to consider shortcuts or unethical means to gain an advantage. The Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam, like any reputable academic institution, places a high value on honesty and fair play. Therefore, any decision-making process must prioritize adherence to the university's academic regulations and ethical guidelines. The correct approach involves seeking legitimate academic support and resources. This means utilizing study materials provided by the university, attending preparatory courses offered by authorized bodies, and engaging in collaborative study groups that adhere to ethical principles. This approach is correct because it aligns directly with the principles of academic integrity, which are fundamental to the educational mission of Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. Specifically, it respects the rules and spirit of the entrance examination, ensuring that all candidates are assessed on their own merit and knowledge. This upholds fairness and prevents any form of academic misconduct, which is strictly prohibited by university regulations. An incorrect approach that involves obtaining or sharing exam questions prior to the examination is fundamentally flawed. This constitutes academic dishonesty and a direct violation of the university's examination rules. Such an action undermines the integrity of the entire admission process, creating an unfair advantage for those who participate and disadvantaging honest candidates. It also demonstrates a lack of respect for the educational institution and its commitment to merit-based selection. Another incorrect approach, such as relying on unverified or unofficial study guides that claim to contain actual exam content, is also problematic. While not as severe as obtaining leaked questions, it still deviates from the principle of preparing based on officially sanctioned or widely accepted academic standards. This can lead to a misallocation of study time and a skewed understanding of the material, potentially hindering genuine preparation and failing to meet the university's expected level of knowledge. The professional decision-making process for students in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's academic integrity policy. This policy typically outlines prohibited behaviors and the consequences of academic misconduct. Students should then evaluate their options against these regulations and ethical principles. If faced with a temptation or an offer of unethical assistance, the professional approach is to reject it unequivocally and seek guidance from trusted university officials or academic advisors on legitimate preparation strategies. This proactive and ethical stance ensures that the student's academic journey begins on a foundation of honesty and integrity. Question 18. Implementation of a personal statement for the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam requires applicants to accurately represent their academic background and extracurricular achievements. Considering the university's commitment to fair and transparent admissions, which of the following approaches best aligns with the ethical and regulatory expectations for applicants? Option A. Embellishing academic grades and exaggerating the significance of minor extracurricular roles to create a more impressive profile. Option B. Omitting any mention of academic challenges or less successful projects to focus solely on positive aspects. Option C. Including fabricated awards or certifications that were not actually obtained to enhance the application's perceived value. Option D. Presenting a personal statement that truthfully details all academic accomplishments and relevant experiences, even if some aspects are not exceptionally strong. The correct answer is D. Presenting a personal statement that truthfully details all academic accomplishments and relevant experiences, even if some aspects are not exceptionally strong. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge for prospective students applying to the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat, specifically concerning the integrity of their application materials. The core professional challenge lies in balancing the university's need for accurate information with the applicant's desire to present themselves favorably. Misrepresenting qualifications, even if seemingly minor, undermines the fairness of the admissions process and violates principles of academic honesty. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between legitimate self-promotion and fraudulent claims. The correct approach involves a commitment to truthfulness and transparency, in all submitted documents. This means accurately reflecting academic achievements, extracurricular involvement, and any other information requested by the university. This approach is ethically sound as it upholds the principle of honesty, a cornerstone of academic and professional life. It aligns with the implicit understanding that university admissions are based on genuine merit and qualifications. Furthermore, it respects the university's regulatory framework, which implicitly or explicitly requires applicants to provide truthful information to ensure a fair and equitable selection process for all candidates. An incorrect approach that involves fabricating or exaggerating academic achievements is ethically flawed because it constitutes deception. This violates the principle of honesty and fairness, potentially disadvantaging deserving candidates who have presented accurate information. Such an action could lead to the invalidation of the application and future academic opportunities, as well as damage the applicant's reputation. Another incorrect approach, which is to omit relevant information that might negatively impact the application, is also problematic. While not an outright fabrication, it is a form of misrepresentation by omission. This can be seen as a violation of the spirit of the application process, which seeks a comprehensive understanding of the applicant. Ethically, it falls short of full transparency and can lead to decisions based on incomplete or misleading information. A professional decision-making framework for such situations would involve a clear understanding of the university's application guidelines and a commitment to adhering to them. Applicants should critically evaluate the information they are presenting, asking themselves if it is truthful and verifiable. If there is any doubt about the accuracy or appropriateness of a piece of information, it is best to err on the side of caution and either seek clarification from the university or refrain from including it. The ultimate goal is to present oneself authentically and ethically, allowing the admissions committee to make an informed decision based on genuine qualifications. Question 19. The control framework reveals that during the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam, a proctor observed a candidate exhibiting behavior strongly suggestive of cheating, including discreetly consulting notes hidden within their exam booklet. According to the established examination regulations of the university, what is the most appropriate immediate course of action for the proctor? Option A. Ignore the observed behavior to avoid creating a scene and potentially upsetting other candidates, assuming it might be a misunderstanding. Option B. Confront the candidate directly in front of other students, demanding an explanation for their actions and confiscating their materials on the spot. Option C. Continue to monitor the candidate closely for the remainder of the exam, making a detailed note of the observed behavior and reporting it to the examination supervisor for a post-exam review. Option D. Discreetly confiscate the candidate's exam materials and escort them out of the examination hall immediately to prevent further disruption and potential evidence tampering. The correct answer is D. Discreetly confiscate the candidate's exam materials and escort them out of the examination hall immediately to prevent further disruption and potential evidence tampering. Explanation. The control framework reveals a situation where a candidate for the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam is suspected of academic misconduct. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a delicate balance between upholding the integrity of the examination process and ensuring fairness to the candidate. The university's regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines for entrance exams are paramount. A decision must be made that is consistent with these established rules, preventing any undue influence or bias. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation into the alleged misconduct, adhering strictly to the procedures outlined in the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat's examination regulations. This includes gathering evidence, providing the candidate with an opportunity to respond, and making a decision based solely on the established rules and evidence. This upholds the principle of academic integrity, which is a cornerstone of any reputable educational institution, and ensures that the entrance exam process is fair and transparent for all applicants. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the allegations without proper investigation. This fails to uphold the university's commitment to academic integrity and could lead to the admission of unqualified candidates or the unfair exclusion of deserving ones. Another incorrect approach would be to impose a penalty without due process, such as immediately disqualifying the candidate without allowing them to present their side of the story. This violates the principles of natural justice and the specific procedural safeguards mandated by the university's regulations. A third incorrect approach would be to allow personal feelings or external pressures to influence the decision, thereby compromising the objectivity and fairness of the examination process. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to the specific regulatory framework of the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat. This involves 1. Identifying the relevant rules and procedures for handling academic misconduct in entrance exams. 2. Gathering all available evidence objectively. 3. Ensuring the candidate is informed of the allegations and given a fair opportunity to respond. 4. Consulting with relevant university authorities or committees as stipulated by the regulations. And 5. Making a decision that is consistent with the evidence and the established regulatory framework, documenting all steps taken. Question 20. During the evaluation of an entrance examination at Amar Telidji University of Laghouat, a candidate notices a small pre-written note containing formulas that are relevant to a section of the exam. The candidate briefly considers using the note to improve their answers, knowing it is against the rules. What is the most appropriate course of action for the candidate? Option A. Immediately cease using the note, discreetly put it away, and continue with the exam without reporting it. Option B. Discreetly use the note to answer the relevant questions, hoping not to be caught. Option C. Immediately cease using the note, discreetly put it away, and report the discovery of the note and their temptation to use it to the invigilator. Option D. Blame the invigilator for not ensuring a completely secure examination environment and then proceed to use the note. The correct answer is A. Immediately cease using the note, discreetly put it away, and continue with the exam without reporting it. Explanation. The scenario presents a common ethical dilemma faced by students during university entrance exams: the temptation to gain an unfair advantage through illicit means. This is professionally challenging because it tests an individual's integrity, adherence to academic regulations, and understanding of fair competition, all of which are foundational principles for future professional conduct. The Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam, like any academic institution, has established rules and ethical guidelines to ensure a level playing field. The correct approach involves recognizing the prohibition against using unauthorized materials and immediately ceasing any such attempt, followed by reporting the incident to the invigilator. This aligns with the core principles of academic integrity and the specific regulations of the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exam, which would undoubtedly penalize or disqualify candidates found to be cheating. Ethically, it demonstrates honesty and respect for the examination process and fellow candidates. An incorrect approach would be to continue using the unauthorized material, believing it will lead to a better score. This is a direct violation of exam regulations and constitutes academic dishonesty. It undermines the fairness of the examination and disrespects the efforts of other students. Another incorrect approach would be to stop using the material but not report it, hoping to avoid detection. While this avoids immediate consequences, it still represents a failure to uphold academic integrity. It allows a dishonest act to go unaddressed, potentially encouraging similar behavior in others and demonstrating a lack of commitment to ethical conduct. A further incorrect approach would be to blame external factors or other students for the temptation. While external pressures can exist, ultimately, the decision to engage in or refrain from dishonest behavior rests with the individual. Shifting blame avoids personal responsibility and fails to address the underlying ethical lapse. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established rules and ethical principles. This involves 1. Identifying the relevant rules and regulations. In this case, the Amar Telidji University of Laghouat entrance exams academic integrity policy. 2. Recognizing the ethical implications of the action. Cheating is dishonest and unfair. 3. Considering the potential consequences of both action and inaction. 4. Choosing the course of action that upholds integrity and complies with regulations, even if it means foregoing a perceived advantage. In such situations, immediate cessation of the prohibited activity and reporting are paramount.